Hallo und herzlich willkommen zur 25. Folge des All-Day Research Podcast, der euch dabei helfen soll, schnell und effizient in die Welt der Forschung einzusteigen. In der heutigen Ausgabe begrüßen wir Dr. Zahra Raissi. Gemeinsam mit unserem Moderator Marvin Beckmann spricht sie über Quantum Networks. All-Day Research Podcast.
Welcome to the next episode of the All-Day Research Podcast. My name is Marvin Beckmann, and today's topic is quantum networks, quantum entanglement, and whatever we want to talk about in the quantum setting anyways. So today I would like to welcome Dr. Zahra Raissi. Welcome.
Thank you.
We will always start an episode where the guest is kind of introduced, talks about himself or herself. So maybe you tell us something about yourself and, for example, where did you study and how did you end up in Paderborn?
Okay. So hello everyone. As I was introduced, my name is Zahra Raissi, and I'm very happy that I'm in Paderborn University. I joined very recently, actually in the beginning of February 2023. And I'm interested in quantum information. So now I have a group here in Paderborn University Computer Science Department called Quantum Information Group. And I'm happy that I will have close collaboration with people like Seval Caribbean as well as Johannes Blumer and some other people I have in my mind, but I didn't talk with them, so let's just not name them. And so I was born in Iran, and I did my education in Iran, and then I had a chance because I was elite student, some kind of nerd, but keep it secret. And I got the grants or some kind of money and the chance to come to Europe and visit Europe for 6 months. So I decided to go to Spain because I was familiar with some cool works. So I went to an institute called ICFO, which is actually the Institute of Photonic Sciences. And it was in Barcelona, a very nice city. And instead of staying there for 6 months, I stood there for 1 year because they also supported me. So they also paid me. And then I went back to Iran. I finished my education there, actually in Sharif University of Technology in Tehran. And then I started my PhD soon after I finished 1 year visiting there at ICFO again. So I become a PhD student in Professor Anthony Assin's group. And yeah, now you can guess that I'm a physicist. My background is physics. My master was high energy physics, so I worked on black hole, curved space, time, and cool stuff like that. I was very interested in elementary particle physics like proton, neutrons, and quarks. So, and then when there was the time that I was about to choose for PhD, I decided to work on quantum information because as a student I was so curious, so I started to read papers and books, and I become very, very much interested in quantum information. So I decided to switch after my master. So I needed to learn the new math because the math of what we know in physics is completely different by what we have. So it was
very difficult to just start with that?
It wasn't difficult, but you know, when you get used to, like for example, working with integral, big integrals, different invariants, and then switching your idea, especially from continuous to discrete, it wasn't that much easy. But yeah, it was manageable. And actually knowing different area is also useful for what I do here, because then I see the connection between what I already know in the past and what I already know now. So I can attend different talks and I can understand other people and then find a bridge between two different topics. And anyway, so I finished my PhD at ICFO, and it was the time that it was COVID. So I could finish my PhD a bit earlier, but it was lockdown. I couldn't do anything. And then I applied for a postdoc position in the US, and I needed to wait for my visa. All the embassies were closed. So I got the chance to stay at ICFO as a postdoc for a little bit longer, like 6 months, so that my visa gets ready. And then I received it, and then I went to Virginia Tech. I spent 2 years there as a postdoc. And before actually coming to Paderborn, I applied for a postdoc position in Germany. I had one place that I already accepted. That was in HU, and one offer from FU, both in Berlin. But then it was funny, actually. People from Paderborn, they emailed me several times. I didn't receive any of the email. I think Virginia Tech email address was just filtering things out. In one of the email I received, and then I think it was some kind of the last trying to reach me. I received that email, and then they set the interview with me. I was very surprised because I didn't expect that. And
so they sent you an offer, not you applied for any? Or did you apply for an offer here as well?
Yeah, I applied for an offer here in Paderborn, but just because of not receiving the email and so on, and the process of inviting people for interview is usually longer. So sometimes you don't that much remembering. And the position in FU, also I applied. It was an open position, but the position in HU, person wrote me and he said that, are you looking for postdoc position? And I said, yeah, actually I accepted the position. And then Paderborn just came, and then I interviewed people. I received the offer. Then I declined both of the postdoc position in Berlin. And then I decided to come to Paderborn. Yeah, that is the story.
How does your current position differ from a classical postdoc position?
Okay, so I can say that one difference is that here the position is 3 + 2 years. So if they like me after 3 years, they offer 2 more years. So I have to behave, but I promise you I only behave until 3 years. And then 4th and 5th year, I'm not going to behave at all. I'm joking. And one other is that you are independent. So as a postdoc, you somehow work on other people's idea as well as your idea, but then you have to somehow defend your idea in the first place so that they accept it. I'm good at it. I can defend my idea in a way that people be convinced to work on them. I did it before, so I have collaboration with other universities and other groups. And one other is that you have the chance to train your own PhD students. I was mentoring PhD students, but not independent. So you have more responsibility, but from the other side, you grow more. So this is also the advantage here. Yeah.
It looks like, at least sounds like a very cool position to be in. So each guest is asked some either-or questions. Just answer what first comes to your mind. Just be free. You don't have to argue a lot. Just out of your first intuition. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Mountains or sea?
Sea.
Hardware or software?
Both.
Yeah,
well, as someone who works on quantum computers, and then, not working on quantum computers, just working to get them out. So, I know that I'm working on both sides, on quantum algorithm as well as many-body entanglement, which is something that we use it for quantum computers. So for now, I can say both, but if you talk about classical computers, my laptop that I have it in front of me, then I would say software because I'm not that much good with hardware, but talking about quantum computers, I would say both.
Okay. Theory or practice?
Theory.
Data in the cloud or on your own hard drive?
On my own hard drive. I'm an old-fashioned person.
Mensa Forum or Mensa Academica? So either the lower Mensa or the upper Mensa?
Depends on which day. If it's between semesters, maybe upper Mensa. If it's you go at 1 p.m., everybody is waiting in a queue, probably lower Mensa, and just get the ready sandwich or just piece of a cake. And
I can absolutely relate to that. Yeah. Coffee or tea?
Definitely tea. I'm from Iran. Persian culture is in me, so it's tea.
Written or oral exam?
So here we have the chance to choose between oral or written exam. But in other universities, we only had the written exam. In only situation that you had the oral exam, it was like defense of proposals or defend your master thesis or PhD thesis. So it was the core. It was completely different. In my class, exactly half of the students, they prefer oral exam. The other half, exactly divide them into half. They wanted the written exam. Me personally was grown by written exam. I think I also prefer written exam.
It's quite interesting. Sevak told the same in his episode as well. He's from Canada, and he was also, I think, even in Virginia Tech as well. At least he was somewhere in Virginia.
Somewhere close to Virginia Tech, okay. But so many people in Virginia Tech knew him, but not from exactly Virginia.
And he pretty much said the same. There are no oral exams in these countries. It's quite interesting because for us it's quite typical, or at least for most students here in Germany. I at least hope in other universities as well. It's not just a Paderborn thing, but as well. Yeah,
but also it adds something. We also could have qualified exam. Here, the PhD is just research. But in many countries, you also need to have courses before starting your thesis. Yeah. And then after those courses, you're going to have qualified exam, which is a bit scary. You have to just know everything, and then they can ask any kind of questions. It's divided into two parts, written and oral. Oral is very scary. I went through that. I can promise you that is scary, but not like a normal course. We don't have oral exam. So it's something completely new here.
Okay. Interesting. So now let's get into a little bit more regarding your own field of research. So on a very basic level, how would you define your field of research? How would you explain it to an undergraduate?
Okay. So, nowadays, I can say, everyone, all of us, have a very small computer in our pocket, which is our smartphone. We can also imagine our laptop, but smartphone, we always go and we have it in our pockets. And the reason that this device is now very small is because we worked on it, and then we made the scale smaller and smaller over many years. There is no imagination that we think that this is going to stop. No, we're going to make it smaller and smaller. And there will be a time that we'll just go from the classical domain to quantum world. Okay. Let me explain it a bit better. So in physics, in the nature that we have, that we live, and we are surrounded with the nature, we can think of four major domains. One of them is classical mechanic. Okay. So the size is big and the speed is small. So I'm a classical person. Your car is a classical device, and the speed of the car is also inside of the classical domain. And if the size becomes smaller, but still the speed is small as well, so we're gonna go to quantum mechanic. Okay, so very, very tiny, small objects. They don't follow the classical mechanic rules anymore. That is the Newtonian rules. Okay, so here you have a car. If you start the car, you know that, for example, the speed is gonna be 100 kilometers per hour. But then in quantum mechanic, the rules are not Newtonian anymore. We have different kind of rules, just because the size becomes smaller. But then the speed is the same. And then another domain of physics is called relativistic mechanics. Okay, I'm cheating here. I'm looking at Wikipedia page. You just search for branches of physics. You can find the the table and everything there. And by looking at the table, you get all of the information that I am explaining. Okay, so we have classical mechanic domain, we have quantum mechanic domain, we have relativistic mechanics that the size is still big, but then the speed is getting close to the light speed. Okay, so it's completely different kind of physics is there. And then one other is that the size is small, speed is very close to the light speed. We have quantum field theory. We don't know many things in the quantum field theory, and those physicists who work on high energy physics, they are trying to understand quantum field theory. But quantum mechanics, you are just everything that we have in here, in our classical world, you just shrink it, make it smaller and smaller. And if you do that with my smartphone, whatever memory that I'm using here, you reach to quantum mechanics, and then you see that the physics is different. That the differences that we have, for example, here in classical smartphone that I have, or the classical laptop that I have, I only work with 0 and 1. Light or off. Light is on or light is off. But then in quantum world, we can have superposition. We can be something in between. So you have a vector that is not only up or only down. It could be in between, with some probabilities up and with some other probabilities down. So it's a kind of a superposition between being up and between being down with some probability. And the other one is the measurement. So in in classical devices, you can do any kind of measurement you want, and you get the measurement results out. You still have your device.
What exactly is a measurement? How can I imagine this?
Yeah, for example, you have your radio and you open it. Okay?
So just, for example, turning it on or looking at it in some
Exactly,
sense.
looking at it. But if you do the same thing, you have your quantum particle inside of the box, instead of the radio, you open that box, you look at your particle, that particle completely changed, the behavior changed. It doesn't behave like a quantum superposition anymore, it doesn't act like a quantum particle anymore. It might act like a classical particle, because you looked at it. Okay, because you measured it. Measuring is just looking at it. Okay, you measure the position of that particle. That particle completely changed the behavior. It is possible. And then the system changed. You open your radio, you close it, you still have a radio. But if you open the box of that, the quantum particle is inside of it, you closing it, yet your particle might not behave as a quantum particle anymore. So measurements make the particle to collapse to some other state. We call them a state that could be like similar to the classical particle. So it can change the identity. And then you have to perform some kind of gate, some kind of operation on that. Then it's going to act like superposition that I told you. The nature of the quantum will come back to it.
It sounds a lot like Schrödinger's cat.
Exactly. But that is also a very good point, because I said that we have 4 domains in physics. Classical mechanics is something that we are familiar with. And then you make the size and the scale smaller, then you go to quantum domain. Then you can also think that, okay, Schrödinger cat is a classical experiment. And then the cat is also classic. The size and the speed, everything is classic. Speed is small. The size is big. Even though it belongs to Schrödinger, it doesn't mean that it's a real quantum. But then this is something that we planned to act like that. And we also have some kind of material there that if it decays, then we have that poison coming out. So that material that decays or doesn't decay is a quantum part inside of that experiment. Okay, so all the box, Schrödinger cat that is inside of that box, everything is completely classic. But that particle that is there and is going to decay, either die or not die, is going to release one electron and it's not going to release that electron. That one is quantum and is acting like quantum. Therefore, if you don't open the box of Schrödinger cat, you don't know whether Schrödinger cat is alive or dead. So it's in a superposition. You have to open it, look at it. Then your system is not quantum anymore. It's not in superposition anymore. Either your Schrödinger cat is alive, you become happy, or the cat is, poor cat, is dead, and then you become unhappy. So yeah, you see also here, the measurement changed the behavior of the system, but it's also one example that every scale is actually classic, but is acting like quantum because we design it like that. One other difference between classic and quantum that brings us some advantage is no cloning. Okay, so if you have a message receiving on your smartphone, without reading it, you can send it to me. You can forward it to me, or you can reply to it in just some emoji or something. But in quantum mechanics, you cannot copy a quantum state or quantum message if you are not familiar with it, if I didn't give you the information. You cannot just not open your email and forward it to someone. You cannot copy it. Okay? In order to copy one message, you have to have one specific device for that message to copy it. Another message, another device. Another message, another device.
So if I get you correctly, if I were to send you a message like date where we want to meet for the podcast episode, and you look at it, I can't have it anymore, this email. So I've lost it somehow if I send you to it.
Yeah, unless you know your message, and you usually know, and you made a copy. If you know it, you have your own copy machine for that specific message, you copy it. But then I answer you, without reading it, you cannot copy it. You cannot share it with your friend and put him in CC or forward it to him. This is her answer. No, you cannot copy it. It's different. Unless you know it. Unless you open it, you read it, you change the state. Looks like the radio, looks like the Schrödinger cat. And then you realize that, your Schrödinger cat is alive. Then you write it to your friend and say, Schrödinger cat is alive. Or in the example that you said, podcast interviews at 3 p.m.
So this sounds strange at first. Mm-hmm. So we can't copy our messages, but what kind of benefits does quantum computation actually give us in, like, let's say, a communication setting?
Okay. So first of all, the message that you don't know it. Okay. I mean, me as someone who wants to build quantum computer, usually consider the situation that, for example, Alice is sending a message and I don't know the message. And for example, I'm supposed to protect it. I'm supposed to have quantum writing codes and stuff like that. But Alice herself know it, and then she can also copy it. Okay. So unknown message cannot be copied. And the other one is that actually this is good that you cannot copy it, because then you can protect it easier. I mean, if I supposed to talk to you over Skype using quantum devices over quantum internet, then nobody can steal that message. Nobody can copy it. And if they steal it, they will realize it, right? So we can use this specific property of no cloning, even though might be not pleasant in the first place, but then we can use it very specifically for quantum cryptography.
So this may give us some, let's say, nice properties regarding security, but building this kind of network where we actually can communicate and like send this information, how does network that is built differ from a classical one? If I imagine like having a superposition, it's not really one and not really the other, it's somehow both. I believe these kind of states cannot really be transferred in any classical way. How can a quantum network be built, and what kind of challenges does one face when having to build it?
Yeah, you can think of having some particle that your quantum message is encoded, or it's just put it on that particle, and this particle could be in superposition, like with some probabilities is spin up or 0, and with some probabilities is spin down like 1. The similar thing that we have in classical devices. There we only have 0 and 1. Here we could have superposition, probability up 0 or probability 1, and then I'm supposed to send you this particle. It could be also encoded on like photon, or it could be encoded on some other quantum particles like atoms, electrons. We have a number of possibilities that we can just encode our message and then send it to you. And how do we do it? We use some kind of quantum channel. Okay. So please remember that nowadays we are working on it. We don't have the most efficient channel to send it. Remember that in the past we had our phone, but it was a wire kind of phone. We didn't have cell phone. And then we end up getting wireless and so on and so on. Nowadays we have to use quantum channel, even though we had some kind of experiment that happened in the free space. Okay. And now we have some nice satellites. Actually, Germany, I don't know if they already send that satellite or they want to send it to the satellite that is supposed to work on the quantum devices. But then we use this quantum channel to send it. And we want to have the quantum computer. And then we want to have some kind of quantum network. Let's call it quantum internet. And then when I write a message, that message is going to be encoded, which is a quantum message. It's going to be encoded on a quantum particle and it's going to be sent to your quantum computer or your quantum device over this quantum internet. The reason that we don't want to use the classical internet anymore, we want to have a quantum version, because then we have some abilities, some possibilities, okay? As you said, we have some limits, but then from the other side, we have some possibilities that we want to use it, because the quantum world is different compared to the classical world. And if we use classical network, then we lose these possibilities. So the best is that we also work on the quantum networks and quantum internets, for example, so that in the end we connect our quantum devices using the quantum channels. Otherwise, we lose that. Okay. In the end, I just end up sending you a classical message or classical particle. Yeah, this is something also I'm interested in. I also work on quantum networks.
So if I look back at a classical setting, previously it was very hard to have like efficient channels, send a lot of data, and there were even a lot of noisy channels. For example, wireless did not work perfectly always. There were a lot of bits like flipped, or we lost a lot of information, even if it was really 1 or 0 with definite normal. And now we have superposition. So it's even unclearer in some sense what kind of information we actually have. How does, let's say, noise interfere with something like a quantum network? How relevant is noise in a quantum setting? And what can we do, for example, to work against some noise?
Mm-hmm. I invite you to remember how the radio works. Okay. So you have a station here, and then I have my radio far away from that station. And this station is just sending some wave. Okay. This wave could hit this building and then just get blocked. Some other waves might just go around this building. They are lucky, but then they hit another building. Okay. This is the station. This station is just sending some wave, but the wavelength is so big that actually sees this building like some hole. Okay. So they can just, pass through. Exactly. And in the past, you had to, you don't remember because you're young, but I remember my dad had to just keep the radio like up, or they need to have some antenna, get it so high so that they receive this wave. But nowadays, no, you go to your basement, you put the radio, you really hear it perfectly well. So I can imagine that you are thinking, okay, in many of the classical devices and so on, we have this problem of having noise. Now, how we think about quantum. Yeah, that's true. But we are improving our system. We are improving the devices. In many cases, we have to improve our devices in experiment. Some other cases, we cannot, or it's more expensive for now. Then we just come up with some theory that we overcome that problem. And then, for example, we use cheap devices to build our device. And actually, you shouldn't forget that in our communication using this smartphone or my laptop, emails and so on, we still have the noise. Every second that I use my computer and my phone, we are using classical error correcting code, actually called maximum distance separable codes, the most optimum classical error correcting code that you can think of. We are using it daily. And for quantum devices, I totally agree. The quantum computer that right now we have in IBM and then stuff, they are super noisy. And communication or teleportation and so on is very hard. But we are in the beginning of the path. We're going to improve our devices. We're going to improve our theory, and also we build the better devices, and then we really overcome this. Also, I invite you to remember the classical computer that we used to have. It was as big as a room, and you could just using it for a short time, and people could pass through that big classical computers. And then we made it smaller, and now we have a laptop that you can just carrying it. Or a cell phone, and such a thing gonna happen for quantum computers and then communication and so on. Right now, you are looking at it, you become disappointed. You say, "Oh, I don't see any chance for that." But if you give it a time and you also look at the improvement that we are going through the time, and also compare it with the classical devices, then it becomes more.
So you're very hopeful that it will end up in some sense usable way for, let's say, all-day use.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that we're gonna have quantum computers. The rest, we should see. I remember I attended a conference that they asked the people in that conference. It was a pretty big conference. They asked, "Do you think by the age of 60, you're gonna see quantum computers?" And after 5 years after, we have this IBM. Okay, it's not the best quantum computer, but yet we have something that actually is practical. This is working. And yeah, I'm optimistic.
Let's make something like a thought experiment. Let's say we have smartphones that are quantum devices, small quantum devices we can carry around. What has to change in, let's say, a security manner, and what might be benefits of us actually carrying around a quantum smartphone? I mean, from my current perspective, my smartphone does everything it has to do. I don't see how a smartphone could improve right now. There will probably be the next invention that completely changes my view. How does a quantum small device could change my view here?
Actually, I attended a talk a while ago, and I was thinking that I never thought like that. All the time I thought, okay, when we have the possibility to buy a quantum laptop, quantum computer, I'm gonna go to this store and I'm gonna buy it. But then I was thinking that, is it possible that I also use my classical laptop, don't throw it away? And some people use classical computer and some other use the quantum computer. I don't know the answer, but I can tell you something. All of this security that you have on your credit card, the password that you have, your phone, email and everything is going to be useless. Okay. With one quantum computer, I can break all of your passwords. All of your passwords, I can break them. Then the security manner should completely change. I don't work in this area, but I know that they should change it. We should change it. So if you ask me, when we have you go to a store, do we also see classical computers that people are buying and they're still using it? Or everybody has to switch to quantum computers? I don't know the answer, but I wouldn't be surprised if we say that our classical computers will be useless. So you have to change your cell phone. I assume so, but I'm not so sure about it. Okay, because I can break it. I can break the code. I can access to your classical computer or classical cell phone, your emails, everything very fast.
In classical, there are a lot of approaches actually trying to overcome current security issues. Mostly the cryptography newly built is post-quantum crypto. For those not familiar with it, it's just cryptography designed to be resistant against these quantum attacks. Now, quantum computers actually offer a lot of performance benefit for certain problems. Not all of them, maybe. How does a quantum computer actually benefit in, let's say, solving problems? Is it just a power-up in everything and it's so much better, it's an exponential power-up and we can solve and do everything with it? Or how does it fit into the realm of complexity?
Okay, so, well, the practical answer that like how our daily life gonna change, I don't want to predict it. I don't know all of the information. So let me tell you what I know. Okay. So when we work on the quantum devices and the potential that are there, one is that, wow, okay, we're gonna revolutionize the information security. As I told you, this password that you have for your credit card, everything, it has to be designed completely brand new. The old version is not going to work anymore. We're going to have quantum computers that they are way faster than the classical computers. It's just really, we cannot imagine it right now working on it, but you can just do the calculation and you realize that how fast the quantum computer will be compared to the classical computers. And there are some problems in physics, computer science, chemistry, biomedicine that we can solve them. Okay, for example, the DNA and many questions related to chemistry and so on. Then we can just use the simulation and use the quantum computers and work with them and then solve them. We cannot do that with the classical computers. But then with the quantum computers, this kind of question, we can solve them. Okay, so I know the fundamental. I don't know our daily life, how would we change it, unless just saying that the quantum computer is going to be way faster. But as you told me, I'm very happy with my cell phone and my computer, and it's fast enough for me. But then when you put it faster and really faster, the quantum computer in front of me, then I'm going to get used to it, and then I'm going to become happier. Okay. But right now I don't see any,
I think it's kind of scary for people not really in that field, I think.
I totally agree. I'm sometimes thinking that, okay, the people who used to just calculate with hand, they probably didn't like calculator. And then people who just got used to working with a calculator, they didn't like computers. And then people who were having computer at home, they didn't like laptop to carry it and so on. But then, after a while, then we are like, okay, I'm pretty happy with my cell phone in my pocket. I don't really want to go to the phone booth and call someone in there, or I don't know, have to reach home. Then I get to phone. I have my cell phone. I can email people. I can text people over Telegram, WhatsApp, and then I can find friends in Facebook. Many people didn't like it. Yeah, they say that, okay, we are not socialized anymore because of the social media. But now we are happy, we adopt it. And if you take me away from internet, then I'm going to become so bored and I'm going to want to check my email, right? And as I said, I don't know how the daily life will change. We will see. But there are some fundamental questions like, as I said, biomedicine, chemistry, and fundamental question, we will solve them. And also questions related to the nature, like space. If the black hole is over there, whether we can just calculate many things compared to, like big system, like solar system, then we can also be able to do it with quantum computers.
So I think we have quite a good overview of your field itself. What are you currently researching on? So what would you pinpoint as, this is what I'm currently working on?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm interested in 4 major topics in quantum information. One is many-body entanglement. Usually when you get a course in quantum information, people talk about Alice and Bob. Okay, we have Alice, Bob, they want to teleport a particle, they want to do this, they want to do that. But now we have this quantum computer, and we know that we need to have many body states, that they have to be entangled together. Why entanglement is important? Because right now in our classical world, we are limited to locality. Okay, I have one particle, it's a spin 0, I change it, turn it off, now it's a spin 1. You can do the same on your particle. Okay. I don't have access to your particle, so I'm just limited to the locality, that the situation that I am. But then in quantum, I might make some changes on my particle without you knowing it. Your particle also change. Okay, so I overcome locality, and also there's the limit with the classical communication. Okay, when I have access to the quantum particle and entangled system, then I can overcome local operation and classical communication. I can do something that local operation and classical communication cannot do it. For example, teleportation. So in quantum computers, we have a number of the particles that they have to be entangled all together. So we have to deal with many-body entanglement, but in basic lecture notes, you just learn about two-body, Alice and Bob. So this is one area that I'm interested in. The other one is quantum networks. As I said, in the end, we have to have communication. We want to use our quantum devices, and we don't want to use classical network. Otherwise, you're not using all of the possibilities that the quantum computers is providing for you. And of course, we're going to have error. We're going to have a lot of error. We already have it in our classical devices. So I work on quantum error correcting codes, and I'm also interested in software, quantum algorithms. So right now I'm working on many-body entanglements, quantum error correcting code, and quantum network. For now, I'm waiting for my students to come, and then we get back to work on quantum algorithms.
So we're waiting for students to come. I heard that you're planning to offer a seminar next term, so in the winter term. What will the seminar be about? What do you plan to teach the students? What kind of topics will they be confronted with? And what kind of prerequisites does one need to actually attend your seminar?
That is a very good question. Thanks. Actually, I'm planning to change my webpage. I want to put a session about this seminar that I want to present next semester. And I'm going through a number of the papers. For the seminar, I'm thinking for every person, 2 papers we study, but one I teach. The other one, he or she teach it to me. And I'm thinking about different areas, for example, many-body entanglement, as I said, quantum network, different kind of papers. Some of them are different. Holographic code or holographic states that is related to holographic property, and as well as like quantum error correcting code that also include the holographic codes and so on. So I'm planned to update my website, and then I'm going to put all of the papers and a little bit explanation about every paper that what is about. So before the seminar, the student can look at my website, and then they know which topic, which paper they supposed to learn, and we going to learn them.
I hope there are a lot of students actually interested in this topic.
I hope so too,
yeah.
But I learned something. I read this paper and then I become familiar with it, because I have to know that this is the right paper for the students and so on. I have to have clear mind about it. So I'm going to learn it by myself anyway. And if there is no student interested in this specific topic, then we just leave it there for my information.
Are you also offering like bachelor thesis or master thesis?
I would like to have bachelor students and master student. I wasn't lucky so far, so nobody came to me. But yeah,
you're not there for so long either, no?
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm very interested in having bachelor students and master students. Yeah.
So if one is interested in like writing a thesis, just come to you and talk about it?
Exactly, yeah. Now I have different topics, different projects. If they want to only learn something, I'm having the project in this area. If they want to, in the end, get a publication out of it, I mean, they have to work a little bit more than 6 months. And then I also have this kind of project in mind, yeah.
Sounds good. What are you planning to do? So we're almost done now. What will you do when you go back to your office?
When I go back to my office at 4:30, we have the talk on the doctoral examination, and I asked them to also put it on Zoom, so they provide the Zoom link for me and so on, so I'm gonna attend that. And today was the deadline for the PhD hiring, so I received a lot of emails. I have to go through the emails and then sort them down, and in the weekend, I'm gonna choose 5 to 6 candidates, and then next week I'm gonna have interview for them. So I have to arrange these things and go through the emails, read CVs, a lot of CVs I have to read, and this is my work.
At least you sound a lot of You have a lot of enthusiasm while saying it. That was the All Day Research Podcast, the podcast of the Institute of Computer Science at the University of Paderborn. I'm Marvin Beckmann, and hopefully we'll see or hear each other again next time. See you then.
All Day Research Podcast. Dies ist ein Projekt in Zusammenarbeit des Instituts für Informatik unter der Leitung von Patricia Höfer und dem Fachschaftsrat Mathematik und Informatik der Universität Paderborn. Moderation und Redaktion Marvin Beckmann. Technik und Redaktion Yannick Greve. Sprecherin Sarah Akopian. Ihnen gefällt der All Day Research Podcast? Dann lassen Sie gerne eine Bewertung da.